So in today's video, if you're crocheting hats for donation, there are few small decisions that can make a huge difference. Today, I'm walking you through them.
Hello.
Over the past few weeks, I've been working on some hats for donation. I've linked that blog post below if you want to see the patterns that I used. And the whole process reminded me of something really important, that when you crochet for others, our goal isn't just to make something beautiful, it's to make something useful, comfortable, and truly helpful. So today I'm sharing my key tips for making donation items, especially hats, since that's where I have the most experience. I've been part of a crochet organization that focuses on donations since 2018. That's what? 8 years? Yeah, 8 years. And over the years, I've learned that a few practical choices can make a big difference for the person who's receiving your work. So while these tips I'll be giving you focus on hats, they can really apply to most projects that you make for donation. So let's begin. It's a whole journey and it begins with the destination. Decide where you're donating, because where the hat goes determines everything else. Is it a hospital? Is it a children's home? A cancer support center? A shelter? A church outreach? Each of these places has different needs. They have different guidelines. Sometimes the destination is very specific. Other times it's broader. Even if your destination isn't specific, you still think about the recipients. Are they babies, adults, people in a medical setting, colder regions? Once you start asking yourself those questions, every other decision becomes easier, at least for me. And the next decision I do after the destination is the yarn. In some cases, guidelines will tell you exactly what to use, whether machine washable fibers, don't use wool, hypoallergenic options, such kind of things. But sometimes, as I've mentioned with our hat projects, there isn't one fixed destination. Even without a specific recipient in mind, you still have to ask, what climate will it be worn in? Will it be practical for daily life? How easy is it to wash and such kind of things? So since we live in a tropical country, while we do experience cold weather, it rarely ventures into freezing temperatures. Those negatives, we are not above the negative temperatures. And because of that, most of the hats we make use fingering weight or light worsted weight yarn, which provide warmth without being heavy, overwhelming, or so bulky. So chunkier yarns we usually reserve for blankets. So instead of asking yourself, what yarn do I feel like using? We ask, what yarn will serve someone else well? And once the yarn makes sense, now comfort is the next consideration, which is not just about softness, but about stretch, about density, and about tension. I'm a tight crocheter, so if I follow a pattern exactly as written, my finished hat can end up smaller and less stretchy than intended. If it's too tight, the hat can feel restrictive, and if it doesn't stretch enough, it may not fit the head it was designed for. So you need the sweet spot right in the middle there, and that's why gauge swatches are so important. Nobody likes doing gauge swatches, really. Nobody. Even me, I don't like them. But it tells you how close or how far your final hat measurements will be from the pattern's intended size. You see why they're important? So again, in the Hat Roundup I mentioned earlier, I included the pattern size I used, the adjustments I made in yarn and hook size, and how those changes affected the finished measurements. Because even switching yarn weights or adjusting your hook slightly can shift the outcome. You know, sometimes the pattern gives you a 5mm and you feel, maybe a 5.5 will work or a 4mm will work. Nah. So you have to make sure if you're following a particular guideline to consider fit, because fit is part of comfort. And once you understand how tension behaves, now your design choices become clearer. Simple designs are often best. No heavy embellishments that could detach, especially if you're doing stuff for kids. Just know. But simplicity is relative. Working hats in single crochet, especially in the round. Where? Or doing fair aisle color work. Those things just frustrate me. They just make me upset. They make my fingers painful. They just make me itch. I don't know. They're just uncomfortable for no good reason. The fabric I'm working on becomes dense, the stitches feel so stiff, and instead of enjoying the process, I really start to fight it with everything in me. As I've said, I start to itch. And if I'm not careful, that project becomes an unfinished object sitting somewhere in a basket, in my cupboard, behind clothes, because nobody wants to remember that. So I've learned to choose designs that are simple for me, and you should do the same. Choose a design that works for you. Patterns that flow smoothly off your hook, don't fight your natural tension, and allow you to finish consistently, because consistency matters. Right? It's better to complete 10 well-made hats in a stitch pattern that works for you than to start 5 complicated ones that you'll never finish. I understand that you want someone to get something that's really cool and really gorgeous and really unique, but sometimes complicated really gets you nowhere. Simplicity is the key. And once your design is sustainable, you make sure the sizing truly serves the people you're trying to help. Something that really surprised me over the years is that preemies don't all wear the same size. You know, when I started out and I was making hats for preemies, I just thought like, you make a small hat that has super stretch and it will just kind of work. But that's not how it works. Even preemies don't all wear the same size. Some preemies need newborn sized hats. Some fit better in 0 to 3 month sizes because their head circumference, their head size, their head circumference. Why is that word giving me such a hard time? What is happening? Because their head circumference varies. So even when you're making preemie hats, it's wise to create a range of sizes. The small adjustment increases the likelihood that your hat will actually be worn and worn over a period of time. So make sure to measure your finished hat and compare it to standard sizing charts. And you also pay attention to the stretch, especially if you crochet tightly like I do. Make sure there's a lot of stretch, and if there isn't, you either find a pattern or ribbing that will allow for better stretch. And if possible, label the size when donating. It helps the volunteers distribute them more easily. You actually want people to use the things you're going to donate. You don't just want to feel good because you're making things for other people. You actually want them to be used. And once everything fits well, the final act of care is how you finish it, how you wrap up everything with a nice bow. So before a donation hat leaves your hands, finishing matters. Make sure you've woven in those ends securely. You trim the excess yarn, remove any lint or stray fibers, and double check your sizing. And if you've watched my magic circle tutorial, if you haven't, I'll link it everywhere where links can be linked. I have a section in there on how to fasten off projects well, which really helps for any kind of crochet project you're working on, because finishing securely ensures that your stitches don't unravel over time, especially if you're making a hat that starts with a magic circle, or you're not yet sure, or you're changing colors as you're crocheting. You want to make sure they don't unravel in the middle, or even as you're finishing off, you want to make sure you tuck in those ends nice and strong and invisible, because a strong finish protects your work and it protects the person who's wearing it. Presentation, people, presentation, excellence. Presentation communicates care. Even if the recipient never meets you, which they probably never will, your finishing detail says, someone made this intentionally for you and they made it with care. And lots of love. And this is also where I like to add something personal. As I crochet my pieces, I pray over them, or at least hold an intention in my heart for the person who's going to receive them. Right? You're thinking about them, what you'd like for them, what you'd like the hat to accomplish for them. You know, simple prayers for warmth can really go a long way. Even if you're not praying, crochet with compassion. The mindset shifts the entire process from production to actual purpose. And you can let me know in the comments if you're making any items for donations. Who are you making them for? Do you have a clue? Are you just making? Share all the details. Because why not? Why not?